Morning, KCFR. We're here today to go over some down firefighter drags and carries. The objective here is to offer some short training videos and opportunities from the day-to-day inside the station for review on how to get a down firefighter from one position inside of a structure out to the exterior safely. Some things we want to consider in the process and some techniques. It's important to remember that in these down firefighter instances, 39% of the time these grabs are being made by the adjacent interior crews. 31% of the time it's from the crew that the firefighter went down in. So a lot of times we're not going to have the grip bag available to us. It's all going to be about packaging and getting them out as quickly as possible. Some options and considerations that we want to think about as we come to a down firefighter is whether we want to bring them out feet first or head first. In close quarters, there's a couple different options into reorienting this firefighter. I'll go over them now. If I want to get underneath the firefighter's legs, get a lot of that friction off the ground, I can turn around relatively in a small space. And now he's heading the right direction. The other option, it would be to bend the firefighter's legs, kick his feet up closely, as close to his butt as possible, bend over and grab his butt, the firefighter's shoulder pack, and we're just going to pendulum off of his lower legs. Both of those use relatively little energy, and now we're heading in the right direction. So some things we want to consider when we come down to this down firefighter is how we're going to get him out and utilizing what muscle groups. A lot of times we want to grab things, and that's utilizing small muscles, and they get fatigued relatively quickly. If we can come up with ways to use our big muscles and create friction points, we're going to be a lot better off. So here's some options. So if I came up and I was going to go feet first, whatever side I was oriented on, if I took his outside leg and crossed it over, it gives me a good pinch point. Now that I have him up on my leg, I can utilize my arm underneath his knees. And when his knees bend over on himself, I'm not utilizing my hands at all grabbing anything. It's all the bite on my arm. And I can utilize this position to make small gains towards my access. Another way that I can create less friction, utilize less energy, is if I want to turn towards my exit, roll him up on one shoulder, and now I'm utilizing my lower half, and I can see the direction that I'm going. Those last couple of options are going to be the way that we might consider doing it in more hostile conditions. In less hostile conditions, we might be able to be on our feet, which will allow us to move more quickly if we have that guidance on the way out. An option for that is getting underneath his legs and getting the bulk of his weight off of the ground, which is creating friction. And that's going to allow me to work a lot less, utilizing less energy. And I can drag him out feet first that way. Again, the conditions are going to dictate how we approach this. If it's heat banking down and I got to stay low, we're going to do what we can. Okay? And a lot of times we're just going to have to use our grip strength to make the progress that we need. If I have an option to be a little bit higher, I'm going to want to get behind this firefighter, orient him up. And from this position, there's a couple of options. So if I loosen his shoulder straps here, I can utilize this loose strap to pull it through and use it as a handhold on the back side. And from this position, I can get his weight up off the ground and have a good handhold all the way out. The other option from that same position, which can minimize the technicality of it in low-vis situations, is we all know that we have this tail here. So not having to utilize the D loop at all and loosening the pack, we can just grab these tails, and that's another way that we can extract this firefighter. Just know that this grip is going to be a little bit more cumbersome. One option is to take this and make a full loop so it's bit back on itself, and that might help with the grip. Again, these are just options with the equipment that we have readily available to us. This minimizes the extra dexterity that comes with webbing, although there are some great options with webbing. Another thing to consider is the DRD. But one of the reasons why it's not my main priority or my main go-to is because a lot of times the SCBA is hindering my access to it. But it's just something to consider. Next, we'll be going into longer distance drags and carries for a down firefighter. When utilizing the SCBA for a pack conversion, it is doable as a one firefighter, but obviously we're going to be asking for more resources. Something to consider when more of those resources show up is clear and concise direction. We don't want too many hands in the party. So as a one resource, I'm going to show you how I would do it. I'm going to work to the head because the main thing that I want to do is get this bottle as low as possible. It's going to help later on in the process as I undo this waist belt. So utilizing his arm, I'm going to stabilize his body. I'm going to put my foot on his bottle and I'm going to kick it down. And that's going to give me what I need later on. Once that happens, I'm going to work over the top. I'm going to get this firefighter on his back as best I can, and I'm going to loosen his waist belt, exposing both sides. Now at this point, if the firefighter falls to the side, that's okay. What I've created is accessibility to this waist strap. From here, I'm going to grab the uphill leg. I'm going to get underneath it, placing my head on the inside of this leg. I don't want it on the outside because when I take this belt apart, it's going to be a lot harder to see it, to find it clasping back together. So having the head on the inside, I have my belt loop here. Once I engage it, I'm not going to let it go. And in low vis, I can use my light right here to re-secure it. If it is loose, we can always cinch it down the best we can. And from this point, I can grab and utilize the shoulder straps as handles or anything else that you might see fit. We got the D loop here that we can pull, and he's secure, at least to get him to the base of the stairs. All right, continuing with the one firefighter extraction. Once we get this firefighter package into a stairwell, it's going to be a lot like the two-man. Our focus is to get his bottle to the third stair and his butt to the second. We can do that with one stair advancement. 1, 2, 3. From this point on, I can lean him forward and stabilize him with my knees. At this point, I'm going to utilize my waist strap as a seat belt. I'm going to loosen it up, unhook it. I'm going to feed it underneath his shoulder straps, and I'm going to hook it back together. Now it's important to cinch this up and gain all of the advantage and space that you can. A lot of times stepping down onto the stair that his butt is on is going to help with that. Now his pack is basically on my waist. And from here, I can utilize my hands on walls or handrails, and it's all in the legs. Again, it's one stair at a time. All the way up. All right, we just made it to that second story landing, or out of the basement, first story landing. And the objective is get to the exterior door. One way that we can stay in this harness and utilize our big muscles is from this point loosening our waist strap. We're creating slack in this system, and that gives us enough room to slide over and utilize a bear crawl. It'll be helpful in low vis environments, and we can pull the firefighter out. Continuing with a 2 firefighter extraction up a stairwell, a little less cumbersome. So once you get up to that third step, just like the single man, we're going to utilize webbing underneath the firefighter's SCBA pack to get that leverage up. I have a pre-tied length of webbing right in my pocket. I can deploy it, throw it over my head, put an arm through it, and the objective is have the bottom of this loop right about where your crotch is. This gives you the perfect lift for this side of the carry. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to have that lower firefighter step in. He's going to control the firefighter forward as I make his SCBA accessible. As As I come down, I'm going to go underneath the bottleneck of this pack. At that point, I'm going to lean him back, and I'm going to give that lower firefighter a chance to get as low and as deep into this firefighter's legs as possible. All communication with two people is going to be a ready, go. It's not a 1, 2, 3. So when we want to lift, I'm going to say ready, lift. It's sequence, and we can work together. Going up. I can stabilize this firefighter's bottle, and I can utilize the other hand on the handle for balance. Way less cumbersome than one firefighter. Something that is noteworthy, in our district we have multiple departments that run the MSA bottles. And so with that last evolution, instead of trying to get underneath the neck of the bottle here, oftentimes they've found that this webbing or rope, it slips off of this ledge. So the area of target here is to get it underneath the actual pack frame. And that's where it's going to sit and secure this firefighter. So there's a couple of options when we consider mechanical advantages. Getting a firefighter down a hallway, changing direction, or trying to get him to a threshold. We got 50 feet of our rope, rescue rope inside our pocket that we can utilize. The way that we would do that is I'd grab my locking carabiner and I would secure it on his pack, preferably on his little D-loop. It has lifting capabilities. And from this point, I would go to the distance where I was going to try to get him. I'd feed the rope out of my pocket. I'd anchor myself, and I can do this alone, or we could double stack and create even less work for each individual. So from here, I'm just overhand pulling and making small gains. Inching our firefighter where we need him. So the other option for a mechanical advantage is using webbing. This is going to be a seesaw approach. So I'm going to deploy my longer webbing, again 20, 25 foot. I'm going to feed my loop just where I clipped on that carabiner, on that D-loop. This is going to be a two-man approach. A lot of times from here, we've just created two handles. Sometimes we can work on a knee, sometimes we can be in our feet. But in a hostile condition, this is a good option for a 2-to-1 advantage with two people. As a first firefighter, I'm going to anchor close to this down firefighter. My other firefighter is going to extend the webbing as far as he can, and I'll be the worker until I get to his position, and I'll become the anchor that he is right now. So I become the anchor, and my other firefighter is going to work off of that, and he becomes a 2-to-1 working in. Outside of all the options that we just reviewed, there's also options with tools, so don't forget those. Here's a couple of ways that we can utilize our tools to help move down firefighters. One of them is going to be a longer distance, maybe a change of level option, and the other ones are going to be quicker, shorter, dirty drags. With this one, it's going to be 2 pike pulls, and it doesn't matter if you feed it through the outside or the inside first, the shoulder strap. So I'm going to work the uphill side first, going through the shoulder strap, underneath the belt, and extending down the length of the firefighter. From this point, we're going to bring the second pike pull in, exposing the other side of the firefighter. We're feeding it through, underneath. And from here, we're going to throw the firefighter's legs up and over each pike pull. What we've created is handles for a lifting capability with the firefighter. From this position, we can go up stairwells, long distances with relatively ease. And another option with hand tools, which we've all seen, but it's again worth noting, is utilizing our hand tools through the SCBA pack. Slide right through. This can be a 1 or 2 man hold. I can go from the feet. We can go 2 man from down low. So those are a couple of options. I hope you gained something from this. Not to drag this on any longer, but ultimately some things for to review are, I want you to think about what muscle groups you're utilizing, how much energy that you're expelling, the conditions that you're in, and when you're with other people, just clear, concise communication. Most important thing is to get out there and train though, and see what works for you.